Hi, I'm Daniel Talbott. I'm with the film Midday Black, Midnight Blue. I co-directed it with Sam and co-produced it with Sam and co-wrote it with Sam. So thank you for having us.
And Sam, you also act in it as well.
Yeah. So I also play the character of Liv.
I want to start with, before we get into the film, you guys met at Juilliard?
Yeah.
We did, yeah, as babies.
Explain that connection and how it's led to, productive
the
work.
The rest of our lives.
Yeah.
We were both undergraduate students in the 90s in New York City. And Juilliard is an incredible place, and we were both sort of odd ducks. I think we were the only people in our class with like purple and black hair, so you're like, I see you. So I think we found each other really fast, and Juilliard is a really incredible classic training, and we were there as acting students, and Daniel and I both love rigor and training, sort of above and beyond all things, but I think our hearts beat to a slightly left of center sort of let's say stubbornly independent sort of routine, and so
Check.
yeah, right, exactly. You're like, it's just a little grunge, a little rock and roll, a little experimental, and there wasn't a lot of that to be had in a classic training program. So Daniel started writing kind of right away, and we started our own theater company, and we started producing sort of beg, borrow, steal, indie sort of theater, and trying to flip the model as much as we could. Instead of like, so here's the budget, what can we do for that budget? It was like, here's the play, how do we make the play? And let's not have it, the creativity and the choices, not like, if we need to smash down a wall, let's find a way to build a really cheap wall. Let's not, let's see what we can do creatively and use limitation as a spark for ideas and to build community. So we partnered up right out of school with a bar in the East Village that let us use their back room, and we did site-specific one-night-only theater for like every month for multiple years, and it sort of just, I think when you find there are teammates in this world, there are friends in this world, there are collaborators in this world, and then when you find all of those things in one person, you're like, no, actually the word for that is family. You found a family member, and I think you build your life around sort of where those roots start to knit together, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
As far as the writing process for you, was that really the first place you got to kind of spark that creativity, or were you writing before Juilliard?
I was writing before Juilliard. Acting was the way that I knew to get into theater and TV and film. It was the only thing accessible to me, and so I always knew I wanted to try to direct and write and also produce and create things. And I acting, like, I don't love being in front of a lot of people. So but it was a way into family and into community, and so I always knew that I wanted to write and try to do things like that as well.
When you guys made the jump into like first the short films and working together on that level, did you already know, like, Sam, obviously like your acting had kind of taken hold, but like, did you know like how you guys would work directing together? Like, was there already a built-in connection that's now bled into these films?
I mean, I have a really small family, and of which Sam is my sister and is my family. And so I had no worry about, I think we have great honesty and great love for each other and great respect for each other, of course. And so I was never worried about it because of the way we communicate with each other, and that, the days that we're not at our best, we call each other on it with a lot of love. And the days, best idea wins, and so, and there's no ego about that. And so I was really excited to get to dive in and have especially at Be Sam, get to co-direct and get to work together, and to do your first feature. I mean, it's scary. You're like, I was scared shitless. I was like, oh my God, like you don't want to let anyone down, and to have Sammy be there for that was the greatest gift I could have asked for, because there's days that there's days you just don't have it. There's days that you're not at your best, and so you can kind of go, Sammy, I hope you're at your best, because I'm really not at my best today, and so just having that there is such a gift, and is such a brilliant gift. So
yeah, I mean, I think the way we've always understood creation to be best is as a collective. I think we're deep believers. I mean, we've done a million plays together with you with me as an actor and you as a director. So for me as a performer, Daniel's one of the safest and most exciting directors for me to work with. So in terms of, again, it's trust and complete symbiosis in terms of, you're like, oh no, I know where you're going. Yeah, and that's a whole conversation, and so there's shorthand and there's 25 years of understanding each other and collaborating. And I just want to second, to step out of the arena of theater production and into the arena of a feature film. There's a lot more people. There's a lot more money. There's a lot more other people's stake in the situation is riding on your ability to deliver and to guide that ship. And so to have a team, instead of just being like, I got it, I'm on my own. You're like, no. Let's have as many, I trust this person in a storm. I trust this person in a storm. Let's go together, because it's going to be choppy waters on certain days. So you want as many good cooks in the kitchen as possible to sort of pivot and move. I mean, we lost all of our locations a month before our principal photography was supposed to start, and the entire team.
State.
Yeah.
Not just state, but you guys go across the country.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We had, because we come from the theater world, we're big on the idea of what do you have? Write for the things that you have. Write for the actors that you think are going to be right for those parts. So we set it all in spaces that we knew we could get for free. It was through family, friends, and you're like, great, so we're going to set an entire story on these properties. The properties are
part of character.
They're the third lead of the story, really. The place is such a lead. And then it all fell apart. So it's sort of where your mettle is immediately tested as a production team, and you're like, great, roll up your sleeves, pivot, limber and nimble, and how do you come up with the solutions? And for us, it became the tenet of the rest of the experience, because the movie started to decide what it wanted, and we were like, cool, how do you listen to that and paddle into that current instead of fighting it, being like, no, the movie was supposed to be in Michigan. You're like, the movie doesn't want to be in Michigan anymore. The movie, where would the movie like to be? And it made complete sense for us to shift it, and we took it to Washington, because the story actually wanted an even bigger landscape than the Great Lakes. We wanted to go even bigger, so.
Can y'all talk a bit about that specific island, and also the visual element that you're talking about, the beauty of where it's at? I love getting to see that. I love the driving sequences. We get to see certain things. Working with your DP, who's Italian, right?
Yeah.
Talk about capturing that new visual atmosphere and how that built in. I think it's a great part of the story, just as much as what Michigan could have been.
Yeah. Piero was my cinematography teacher at NIFA. He's an amazing man. One of our lead producers, Level Holder, had also independently done Working Man with Piero. So when we were making up our little lists of DPs we would love to work with, I was like, this entire list are people I only know of because of Piero. So you're like, what about Piero? And we met with him, and he just really, really understood us and understood what we were trying to do. The film is experimental. It's nonlinear. It's very
impressionistic.
Yeah, impressionistic, and he was really into that and into ways to support that and lean into it. And I think one of the reasons we wanted to be out in the Puget Sound was that Ian, our main character, is so is so locked in his own labyrinth, and like right outside of him is epic beauty. And like if he could find his way out of the lock in his head, all of that is there waiting for him, and it's right there, you know. And like it's just, we wanted to have that always present and always surrounding him, and sort of ready to welcome him into it when he is ready to say, I'm ready to try.
Yeah, I mean, that island is magic, and that community could not have been more welcoming and more embracing. And if it hadn't been, we would have been in such deep trouble. I mean, like, if they hadn't wanted us there, that film never would have been made. Yeah. And it literally was from day one, this wonderful woman, Sherry, who was our film liaison and for the community, and just
Sherry Wyatt. She's amazing. She's amazing.
And she really just the island. She has this saying, "What the island provides." Yeah. And the island definitely provided, and became just a soft bed for us to kind of lay and create, and it's a place I fell so much in love with, and but it is also a place. The nature there is so big and so overwhelming that you easily could be swallowed by it. So I thought that really worked for our story. That if you want to get lost there, you could disappear and no one would know where you're at for a long time, and if ever. And so I think it can both hold you and also disintegrate you. And I think that really worked for the story. So
yeah.
I'll hold it. Yeah.
To continue on this, connections being important to the making of the film. A lot of the cast, I mean, we talked about Merritt with Godless. Mm-hmm. Freaking awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
How many more connections can y'all share the importance of that extended family in independent filmmaking? It's almost a necessity.
Yeah, I mean, like like I said, you know, I have a very small family, and many of which were working on that film. You know, my wife was a producer, also acted in it. Our son is in the
first line of the movie.
Yeah, it basically has the first line of the movie, and you know, so it was very much a family, close friends, you know, work environment, and there's something about the history that you can't buy, you know, just having that much history with people, you know. And even if you get into it with them, I mean, there are a couple of days that like Chris and I got into it, you know, and we've known each other so long, and you know, been in the trenches for so long together, and you know, but there's just so much history and shorthand, and when you're, you know, shooting an independent film and you have so few days to shoot it, it was such a beautiful, precious thing to have that, you know. And we're getting ready to make another feature, and you know, I think it will be more of a mixed cast. It'll be more of like people that we don't know and people that we know, and so it will be interesting to how do you find that shorthand with people that you just don't have 20-25 years with, you know. And but yeah, so
yeah, this was also like we wrote the script during COVID, so we knew from the beginning that we might have to like lock down in a house and live together. So like it really stripped away. You lean into sort of trust and family, and sort of go like, how do we create when the chips are down, and who do you want to be in that with, and you know, how do you embrace the things that actually are gifts in like, you've got 20 years with somebody, use it. Mm-hmm. If you have that person to work with that person. Film is, it's such it reads you like a book. So if it's dishonest, they can tell, you know. So like, if you have somebody that you already have love and trust with, that you can put yourself next to, it will ground you in a way that you can't manufacture. You know, it is what it is.
With that in mind, specifically with the Liv character and Ian's, that building that relationship on screen for us, the audience, I think is so reflective of everything you've just been talking about. I love the interactions we're given, the the joke battle they have, for instance, to start with, built so much rapport, not knowing how dark he had gotten because we're so early in the film. How important was it to give that relationship a form of levity, but obviously you needed to translate that these people were in love and now they're not? I mean, she's gone. So, like, how do you do that with a Meryl Streep joke? And then, you know, like, how do you keep it so simple? I loved how it's limited dialogue in this film, and yet you tell so much.
Thank you.
Where does that type of writing come from? I know it's a visual feel, but I was blown away by how much is not said, and yet I know exactly what each of these characters are going through. I did not expect that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I love the idea that film, you know, what I've heard so many people say that film should be like a Charlie Chaplin film, that it's like you don't need language, you shouldn't need language to tell the story of film. It is, you know, a visual active media medium, and so I always love, like, what can you get rid of? Like, if you don't need it and you don't need to say it, don't say it. Get rid of it. And so I think there's a beautiful, you know, I think you overwrite when you start, and then you bury your babies. You know what I mean? And let the actors do their job. And if you're working with great actors, and I think we were working with extraordinary actors, you have that history, there's so much that can be done unsaid, and the camera picks it up, the camera tells the story, and so I really love the challenge of just trying to, if you don't need to say it, don't say it, you know. And I love getting rid of dialogue, and you know, and I was that way in plays as well, but it's harder to do in plays, you know. It falls apart quicker, but yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we, you know, there were, Daniel and I didn't ever sort of stop working on it. You know, it wasn't, the edit was a huge leap forward in the change too, and I think there was a lot of room that we kept cutting, you know, because you're like, if the connection is playing in the way these people are looking at each other, then don't mess with it. Like, that's good. Strip it back. And then where you needed to add tiny little dashes of things, or, you know, you want that earlier. So how do you get it in earlier? But as you said, like, Merritt is a perfect example of, you're like, that woman doesn't need to say much, and you get oceans. Mm-hmm. You just get so much. And she was our first 3 days of filming, and she just set a tone that she shows up at 6 a.m. and is like dropping it in.
I don't think she says a word in her first 3 shots that y'all have.
Yeah.
Which I don't know a director would get Merritt Weaver and do that, so it's pretty badass.
Well, I'm saying I cheated a little bit. Merritt and I are old friends, and I know that Merritt would actually like love to maybe do a role where she doesn't have to speak at all. Like, that would be her heaven, maybe. But like, again, it was friends, and we'd all been out of work for a year, you know, as actors. And so when we called Merritt, we're like, hey, you want to come to Washington and do this thing that we wrote for you? Like, we were all scared. You know, you're coming back out, and performance is such an ephemeral, fragile thing. You're like, is it still there? Do I have it? Like, I haven't used that muscle. And so it was this real, like, trust exercise of like, let's all be as gentle as possible. The story is a sort of delicate glass ornament, you know, like, so let's be as tender with each other as we can, and sort of step quietly through that big, dangerous wilderness a little bit. But I think everybody kind of wanted to do that, which was incredible.
Why Tallgrass? This is a Puget Sound story from the Northwest. Why this festival? There's no distributors. There's no business that's going to happen. Why Tallgrass?
I mean, Melanie Addington was definitely.
That's why we're here too. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like we met her at Oxford when she was at Oxford, and I just think she's extraordinary, and she's such a pure lover of film, and such a champion of filmmakers. And so I was like, anywhere she goes, I would follow, and also just word of mouth. Like, we had heard such incredible things about the festival from other filmmakers, and like, you know, and filmmakers really do talk about festivals, and so you get to know very quickly like the festivals that they're in love with. And Tallgrass is one of those festivals. And also I like travel. I like meeting new people and new communities. And I've never been to Kansas before, and so I love the Wizard of Oz, but I've never been to Kansas. So so I was so excited just to come here and just take in the vibe of another city and another place, and have just met really cool people and really kind people, and it's also, the festival precedes itself, like it stubbornly independent has definitely, like, you hear that all the time, and it was created by really extraordinary people, and y'all have created an amazing festival. So why would you not want to come? Like I wouldn't want to turn that down. So yeah.
I grew up actually. Leela Meadow-Connor and I know each other from back in Massachusetts in the 80s, and so I heard about Tallgrass through Leela for years and years and years and years and years. And this is the first opportunity to bring work, and you make your list of the film festivals that people just rave about, the community and the opportunity to meet and network and build new friendships and build new collaborations. And Tallgrass is one of those places where you're like, no, that really happens. It does actually happen. Because you go to some of these festivals and you hope that will be, and sometimes it's not. You are there to get a distributor or sell it's a very different goal. But I remember calling Leela when we had a rough cut of the film and being like, her first question was like, well, what do you want to get out of your festival experience? And you're like, and Tallgrass, the reputation precedes it. You're like, this, what you're coming here for, which is exciting.
Well, guys, I think that's a perfect way to close, because I think this is a commercial for next year. But thank you guys for bringing the film here. I was blown away by it.
Thank you.
It's such a powerful movie, and thank you guys for being bold enough to bring it to Tallgrass, following Melanie. Oxford is hard enough to find, let alone get to. So
beautiful. Such a great place.
It's such a pleasure to have the Melanie crew continue. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.